Let's begin. There have been times in American history where we needed government to intervene, but sometimes we didn't like the way government acted, and sometimes we did. Sometimes it's what saved this country, and sometimes it's what ruined it. Here are three things that the government did throughout the period of the Great Depression to World War II, and answering the question, could we justify this or not? This is not justified. Upon the attacks of Pearl Harbor conducted by the Japanese, America was paranoid. There were constant reports that the American citizens of Japanese ancestry were conducting a means of espionage against the American government, and because of this, they were incarcerated. However, one could argue that this was a result of racism, and we can prove that. America was notorious for persecuting fellow citizens just because of Japanese ancestry, and the crisis, an editorial report released subsequent to the incarceration initiative, says color seems to be the only reason thousands of American citizens of Japanese ancestry are in concentration camps. However, there are no American or even German American citizens in such circumstances. This proves that America justified its example because no one stood up for these persecuted souls, which explains that military necessity was not a reason to justify what happened. The US was at a point where it was angry and vengeful, and because of this, they made a mistake that was done in haste and rage. They knew that this wasn't right. No, everyone didn't. But knowing that they justified this to the victims is heartbreaking. In reality, this is not justified. The stock market has crashed and dragged America with it, and the government is notorious for not being involved. The president, known as Herbert Hoover, who no one likes, made sure to not let the government interfere. This was a time where the Great Depression was a lesson as to why domestic policy must be maintained and government intervention is at times necessary. Eventually, FDR was elected and proposed methods and plans to get America out of the Great Depression through government intervention, and when FDR entered, everything changed. Introducing the New Deal. Established by FDR, the New Deal strives to rebuild the economic divide in the US and promote government interference to help America back to normal. Under the authorization of FDR, new agencies were instituted. He himself said it. The aim of the New Deal was relief, recovery, and reform. Upon his election in 1933, he was quick to get to work. And for his next 2 terms in 8 years, new agencies were instituted. The WPA, Works Progress Admin, was created in 1935. It employed 8.5 million Americans, their jobs being to build schools, hospitals, and other essentials in life in terms of building. So to summarize, the New Deal set a new precedent for the government to play important roles in the grand course of the nation. This can obviously be justified, as it had positive benefits and sought to help people recover and return to normal lives. And due to government intervention, in a mere few years' time, America was fixed, proving against Hoover's belief to limit government intervention. And no one still likes you, Hoover. Screw you. You're an idiot. No one likes you. Neutrality acts that were passed because America wanted to stay neutral. The first, passed in 1935, prohibited any means of ammunition or arms shipped to other countries. 2 years later, in 1937, another act was passed. This time, Americans could not transport on belligerent or opposing nations' ships, so you can't transfer on a German ship. And American merchants would no longer be able to transfer arms to belligerent nations. Belligerent meaning hostile or aggressive. Bear in mind, different nations could always purchase anything else from America, but not arms. Eventually, another Neutrality Act was passed. However, this somewhat undermined neutrality. It introduced this new policy of cash and carry. This new policy, introduced by FDR, lifted the limits of transporting weapons to other countries. But instead, America wouldn't be transporting the weapons. The nations would have to come and purchase them. In March of 1939, after a fierce debate, Congress rebuffed the attempt to review the cash and carry policy. In the grand scheme of things, the US simply did not want to be involved whatsoever. And this could be somewhat justified, because America didn't want to risk so many deaths. But one could also argue that this was selfish, because there were times where America was needed. This could definitely go both ways, making America somewhat justified. And bear in mind, FDR did want to work with the other countries, but it was Congress and a majority of the government that did not want to work with other countries, making this a 50-50.